Okay. All right. This should be it. You see? Should be good. What the fucking shit? All right. This is good because I'm starting a little flustered just emotionally because of something that I won't explain. But I think I think that I'm going to trying to think of a Big Lebowski quote. I think I'm gonna chill. I think I'm gonna take another strike of this scotch. And we are gonna be starting again in a few moments. Let us hope. Is anyone able to confirm that there is audio now? Great. This is the universe's way of saying you need to drink more before doing podcasts. You need to make sure that you're good and drinking before you go live with any podcasting things. Very important.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Can you?
I can. Yes.
All right. So we're off to a start.
It's a better start. Great.
Let me begin by asking you, Wizard, a fellow Dudist priest, correct? We are both ordained?
Well, I got my authority from on high, being a reincarnated dude, or an incarnated dude, I suppose. But yeah, no earthly organization of the Church of the Latter-day Dude has given me my authority. I act in the name of the dude, but yeah, it's a little bit different. That's why we're working on the reorganized Church of the Latter-day Dude, as is tradition with Latter-day religions.
Delayed by like 3 minutes.
Well,
is there a way for me to plug in the computer? an aux and hear it more directly that way. Let's try that.
Yeah, that might be a thing. Yeah, let's see about that. Yeah. So we're kind of in the subject matter right now. I learned this thing in radio school that is you don't refer to the problems of the past in radio. It's always, hey, and we're doing this thing. Welcome, because you're always trying to speak to someone who has just joined the program.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so if I just tuned in to WWJ512, to hear somebody be like, man, we weren't having many technical errors. What happened earlier was such a bummer. You're disregarding somebody who just walked into the theater, which reminds me of a Big Lebowski reference. It's like you're like a child who walks into a theater with no point of reference. So it's just welcome to the Paradialectic podcast. Welcome to the Paradialectic podcast. We are going to be talking about the Dao of the Dude, and that is to say the philosophical axioms and sort of pseudo-religious framework presented by the film The Big Lebowski.
Right. And is there a way to maybe send that to the aux?
Send that to the aux.
Are we live at this moment?
We have, yeah. Yep.
Hello, everybody. So we're working through some technical issues, but we're getting much closer than we were a moment ago.
Yeah. We'll just dude our way through it. We'll just glide on. It'll all come together.
Right now, Wizard, I cannot hear you, so I just have to interpret what you say through your general body language. So I will be guessing and mind reading.
Well, that's how we learn from each other, though, too. That's how that speaks more than we'd expect it to. We can get a lot from body language.
Oh, yeah.
Does that work?
That works.
Oh, really?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay.
We done figured it out. Oh, yeah.
All right. Nothing is fucked here, dude.
Nothing is fucked. As
my not perfectly Christ consciousness or dude consciousness self, I'm going to admit something was fucked for a bit, but now it is no longer. And so fuck it. Let's go bowling. Let's have bowling. Let's have a conversation.
So welcome everybody, and good to have you on Paradialectic. And today officially is the Dao of Dude, and we were recently at the Tangent Gallery for the Dude Fest, at which our friend Wizard here officiated, embodying much dudeness in himself, and providing blessings and baptisms onto people who wanted to join the Church of the Dude. So welcome, Wizard, and would you like to tell
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. What is Dude Fest, and what is the Big Lebowski, or for people who either haven't seen it for a while or maybe never have seen it?
Yeah, I think maybe we start at the Big Lebowski. I think the Big Lebowski is a film that has really aged well. There's a lot of things that have really, really aged well in it, and it's kind of timeless as well. But it is the solace to all of the slackers, and not the Lebowski big achievers, but maybe a little bit less achievement, but being all right with that, because all you can do is what you love doing, which for the dude is bowling. So there's lots of bowling references and things like that. But I think you don't have to be a bowler to be a dudist. You just have to be passionate about something that you enjoy doing, and that
clearly not be a golfer.
Can't be a golfer. I think depends on how you go about golfing. I think you can be a dudist and a golfer. Right. I think it's golfing is a very Zen art. It's all about keeping the mind clear and not letting it get in the way of the body, doing what you've practiced many, many times before. And the same thing goes for bowling too.
In fact, get some of that Bill Murray energy and some like caddy, with the golfing, right? You got the and you got the Zen out on the court, and
I think you mean disc golfing.
That too. But look back to the 80s, man. Rodney Dangerfield and golfing, Bill Murray and golfing. So you've got that heritage, that lineage, if you will, of kind of very a dude-like energy with that sport.
God, you gotta have so much stuff to golf, though.
You know, it's a very monetary heavy investment there to jump into golf.
Non-dudely disc golfers drive me insane. Like, I want to respect people's life paths and how they want to operate, whatever brings them joy. But when the people are being so intense about like like having that they need all of the discs in order to disc well, like as they're different disc for different situations, and the way people get about not making a noise while they're driving because they'll blame that on you. I feel like that's the most fucking projecty shit ever, where it's like you know, you throw a bad, like if you're really, really great, you're gonna throw a drive with somebody like, you know, setting off firecrackers like as you're throwing every fucking time. I don't know. I want to be.
I think that's good practice.
Sure, yeah. On the disc golf course, I embody dude energy, and I experience people who embody anti-dude energy on the disc golf course.
So again to kind of set the scene. So we've got the Big Lebowski.
Yes, yeah.
So the dude is the kind of centerpiece of the movie, right? The Big Lebowski itself refers to the apparent millionaire sharing the name Jeffrey Lebowski with our main character, the dude, with our protagonist, the dude, right?
Right.
And then the dude has a couple of friends. We've got who are those friends?
Okay, well, we got Walter and Donnie. You know, Walter is a high-strung, to say the least, character who actually is the catalyst for the whole movie. Without him, none of the things in the movie would have happened. And Donnie is kind of their sidekick who never really gets the attention that he's looking for, right? He's kind of starved of that, and he's just, and so I you know, they're definitely an odd couple, but I think, you know, they work together, and I think that's also something that tells us about friendship as well. That, you know, you don't necessarily need to keep all the same people around you. Although, I'm not
seeing how Donnie is the catalyst for the entire.
Walter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the dude was ready to let it go.
Because if you think about it, yeah. So what happens due to a case of mistaken identity and a theme that will jump up a lot of money is all through this film. Every character in the movie wants money except for the dude, who just wants his rug that got peed on because they thought that some thugs thought that he was the Big Lebowski. Because they're very stupid, and one of them peed on his rug, and so the whole movie revolves around the dude just wanting his rug back. You know, every other character in the movie wants the money, and the dude just wants his rug. I appreciate that about.
He's just about the feng shui of his room. The rug made the room come together, right?
Yeah.
These thugs, they're sent by a known pornographer, right? So kind of give the backstory here. Who sent the thugs in that were peeing on dude's rug?
See, this is a very complicated story to all unfold. If you have not seen this movie, I mean, it's a hard movie to get, even if you've seen it once or twice. I think it takes at least 3 viewings, maybe more than that, to get the ins and out of what every character is doing in that story, and how they all interrelate and interconnect.
Right. So kind of what I picked up, because I watched it, I did my research. I've seen it many times, but I actually saw it through new eyes. And I've got some controversial opinions that I'll want to bring up with the two of you here in a moment with this with new eyes.
But new shit has come to light.
New shit has come to light. Exactly. So we've got these two thugs who come in, and they were hired by this known pornographer who is tied in to Bunny Lebowski, who is married to the apparent millionaire, the Big Lebowski, Jeffrey Lebowski, who runs an organization, a charitable organization, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, and this is an organization really just to stoke his ego, right? That's what we find out later on in the movie. He's set up as this very like rich character. The shots in that section are all very wide and spacious, and you see the mansion for all of those shots are very, very wide and spacious and give this like apparent air of authority to this guy who is crippled, has lost his legs in Korea, I believe. Yes, Korea, and he. But he went and made something of himself. But we find out later in the movie that he's completely broke, that he's embezzled the money that is supposed to be ransom for this trophy wife that's been apparently abducted, right? And the dude, after trying to go and get his rug replaced by the Big Lebowski, whose rug should have been peed on, I think they concocted this plan to, frame him and say, "Oh, here's this bum," right? And we can put this all on him and take millions of dollars. And I love the dude's reaction after getting yelled at about getting a job and being a bum from this rich guy, and he walks out just cool, and his assistant comes up and says, "How did it go?" And he's like, "Oh, great. The old man said take any rug in the place." Just so smooth. And just like has one of the servants carrying it out on his shoulder as he flirts with the guy's wife on the way out.
I was just saying that's how you got to react to people when they're being too serious. You can't you can't reflect back that energy. It's like dealing with a dog, like you don't.
Yeah.
It's paranoia. You're just going to create a compounding problem. Like you don't want to expend the cortisol, but also you don't want to throw cortisol on the bonfire that is already somebody's being too serious.
You do that well. You navigate that well, Mr. Nonsense.
Well, not always, and that's why I need to go to church every so often, and a new church that I in my compendium of churches and symbols is that of not just the film Lebowski, but the potential to and now the realized potential, because just last week we gathered at the Tangent Gallery in Detroit, Michigan, and we had a Dudist. Would you say
it was
ceremony?
It was quite the ceremony. It was quite the ceremony. I mean, yeah. I think once we get moving, that will be more like a temple experience that happens once a month or once every quarter or something like that. And then hopefully we can get some regular meetings together, a little bit less intense. But I think we did it right. The Dudism, technically, as an organization, or the Church of the Latter-day Dude, which you can go and become a priest at dudism.net, I believe, and dudism.org. I think they might have a meeting space where they go. I think it's a gift shop that they meet in for the Big Lebowski, where you can go and buy all of the clothes from it and a bunch of other things. So I think they meet there occasionally. I don't know if they do anymore, but I think we're the first physical organization that has performed ceremonies or ordinances, if you want to use the religious term. And I think that ceremony and ordinance is actually an important part of religion, and that there's some really, really fun chances to create ceremonies, especially if you know the movie, around the things that are actually happening in the movie. And so
bowling. We should go bowling.
We should actually go bowling. We were thinking about bringing foaling into it, because that would be equally something that we could do at the Tangent as well.
Is that where you throw the football, or is that the thing?
Bowling pins? Yeah, that's the football at the bowling pins. I think it's still the same spirit. There's still the same spirit in it. So may try that. We also may bring ping pong into it because there's instead of and we have a non-competitive game of ping pong that I think would be good at embodying the spirit. But we also don't want to just limit it down to bowling because there can be all sorts of things that you can exhibit the spirit of the dude.
No, but bowling. It really is perfect though, because like there's something about ping pong that does actually require a readiness and seriousness. You can't lackadaisically good at ping pong. It's not lackadaisical. It's like
well, it depends on the game that you play. Let's see, we got a good game. We call it the edge game, where you don't have to get on the table really, and you just keep on hitting it as much as you can. And so it becomes more of a team effort to keep the ball going and moving. But the only way that you score a point is if you hit the edge of the table. And so you don't have to be nearly as on point or sober for this game. You can play this very, very drunk. We've tested that extensively and thoroughly. So
this almost strikes me as like an offshoot religion of the Gumpians, right? So you had Forrest Gump in ping pong, and you've got the dude in bowling.
Wait, there's a Gumpian religion?
Well, there could be now. Like we could.
There should be.
Right.
I mean, this takes things in like a more sincere direction. But you know the thing about Forrest Gump that like doesn't get, that some people say that it doesn't get across in the movie, and that it's more.
I do not.
That the what is supposed to be, from my understanding of people who are very passionate about the book, is that the main moral of Forrest Gump is that he's actually not a special needs person. He's actually just very kind.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and if you watch it again with that lens, yeah, that he is just this like perfectly behaved as far as like, you know, kindness and do no harm and just like you know, has respect and equality like wired into him, and the world reacts to that by continuing to traumatize him by calling him stupid. And his mom has her whole what's that called, the Eminem talks about his mom having this Munchausen's thing of like there's something, you know, there's always something wrong. And
yeah, so
his mom, you know, gives him the legs, and that further puts him into this narrative of that I'm you know, lesser than everybody, and that it just keeps compounding throughout his life, when really all that he is kind of like morally perfect. That's how I've watched Forrest Gump.
Set him up to be a savior figure pretty well. We should have Gumpian religion on maybe like Wednesday or Tuesday.
Bill Murray and golf on Thursdays, right? We could have a little putt, a little urban golf, right? And then we're
pretty good putt course builders too here.
Yeah, exactly. This could be quite the regular ceremony thing here. We could get the Unitarianism of movies. I dig it.
Of movie religions. I like it. Yeah.
It makes my head spin a little bit though, trying to mesh dudism with Gumpism though, because Gumpism is so heartfelt. You know, if you vibe with it that way, Dudism is so about like, let your fucking hair down, like, you know, just like fuck it, go bowling, you know, which are kind of like, I don't know if they really, if they contrast, it feels kind of like mental emotional whiplash to me to go between, you know, the real like distilled moral value of Forrest Gump and Dudism, because Dudism is like, that's why we're having this.
We're having fun, right?
We haven't really gotten into the dialectic right now of like, when do you take Dudism too far? Because you can let go you can be too loose.
So let's pause. And the question that I think is worth asking, we're defining as well. So we're partway through the plot. We'll come back to the plot because what we have here is two things. We have the first rug that moves the plot forward, and we have the second rug, which also moves the plot forward. But we'll come back to that. Back to that. So we need to talk about Taoism. So Taoism is this concept that is very close to what our podcast is about, Paradialectic. So we're about paradoxes and dialectics. And there's that idea that this whole range of human behavior is important. That that ability to be peaceful and kind, and that ability to be aggressive, that ability to go with the flow, and that ability to be organized, that we don't want to pit these aspects of ourselves at each other, against each other, within ourselves. We want to know how to be each of those at all times, that as necessary. So Taoism really embodies that with the symbol of the yin and the yang. And within the dude, he's often associated with being this very Zen-like individual. But this is my controversial point.
Okay.
I am wondering if dude is actually as dude-like as we like to embody him, or if there is actually another dude. Just like there are two rugs that move the plot forward, and there are two Lebowskis of a different type, I will argue that there are two dudes, and there is one dude projecting actual dudeness onto the other dude. Can you guess what I'm thinking, Wizard?
All right. I mean, I can guess a kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my guess is that your guess, or your thought, is that Donnie is the actual dude.
No.
No.
The cowboy, often referred to as a dude, is the most chill, the most equanimous. I hate that word. He's very he's not equestrian, but
equitable. Is it just equitable?
No, it's like equanimous. He is
like Thomas Aquinas.
Equanimous.
What you're supposed to be in yoga. He's very chill. He is very chill, and he is the one. He's the narrator who points out that dude is the man. He is this chill guy.
Yeah.
He just is the man for his time, and he goes along. But he is, out of everybody in the movie, the cowboy is the most chill, the most gracious, the most flowing, the most kind of go with the flow guy in the entire thing. And he is the one that points out dude as being kind of the center of things. But I actually think that the cowboy is dudier than the dude is dude.
I mean, we haven't seen the cowboy stretched, I suppose, but he definitely puts out that air for sure. And without his narration, we wouldn't know to focus on the dude either. You know, he's the one that actually like narrows the focus, and his opening is what sets your eyes on and watching the dude for everything that he does.
Because I would say that people can project negative qualities on other people, but I also think that people who are nice and kind, that they often project that niceness and kindness onto other people too. And I'm wondering if the cowboy is projecting some of his chill onto the dude, because the dude actually spends a lot of the movie agitated, frustrated.
And once again, it is a rough week.
Like I said, this is about as stretched as the dude gets. I think
it might be possible that, like, for the whole Walter Donnie dude friendship has been really chill in the midst of chaos. Like, I mean, it makes sense to theorize that Walter has gotten the dude into trouble before, but maybe this is the first time that everything kind of snapped.
Oh, I don't know. It's like you're friends with a guy like Walter, man. Walter always thinks he's right, but is always wrong. And that's like kind of his.
Well, actually, Walter was right a lot of the movie, which is the unfortunate thing. He was actually right when he's, when they've got the toe, and he's like, he's actually calling all the things in the movie for the most part. I mean, he's still wrong, obviously, but you can be wrong while being right, and you can be right while being wrong. I know that's
the dude made. He's like, dude, you're not wrong. You're just an asshole. And that's one of the questions we kind of pose in this episode is maybe that's the problem. He's right, but he's an asshole, and that's what gets the dude in trouble.
Right.
That's America right now. You've got two contrasting sides that are right about some shit, but they're being fucking assholes. And so neither will bring us towards progress. This is why I really like the idea of not left, not right, but forward. But that ship has sailed, and now we're.
So Zach, I like that point. Like, you're saying that both sides are right. So the left is right
about some stuff,
about a lot of things, and the right is right about other things, but they're both being assholes currently in terms of like the mainstream thrust of things.
Yeah, and because of that.
Oh, and you're also talking about like the people.
Huh?
I said you're also talking about the people. We're not talking about the people leading us in those.
To say the left or the right is part of the problem for sure.
Okay, right. That down. The loudest voices on social media representing the left and right are often assholes.
The extreme caricature of either side is an asshole.
The living in virtual straw, men and women and non-binary.
And I just so happen to have had a life where I have been awoken, enlightened to the fact that my bias of thinking that one side is less consequentially shitty than the other. You know, I recognize that might be just my bias entirely, and that just. But what I very much do observe, and this may just be like my opinion, man, but extremism fucks us all. It's just what direction is it coming from? But extremism bad.
Right. Well, I think there's also just problems with groupthink, like the idea that everybody in a group has to think the same and hold the same ideals, or they're not part of this group, right? Especially when it's so like binary and one side and the other, right? Like, I think you get into big dangers when you have to think everything that your group thinks, or else you're like an outcast.
Yeah. You know? Here's a hypothetical. What if the dude and big Jeffrey Lebowski would have in their coming together would have seen each other's truth in that first negotiation, and instead of all of this conflict, we would have got, hey man, I got this big house and stuff, and I'm kind of gaming the system. I'm actually kind of being really chill about how much of a fucking asshole I am. You know, as where I see you. What you're doing is you're real chill about how pacifist and fucking and actually kind-hearted and well-meaning you are. You just want to go bowling and smoke weed, and every so often something will happen where somebody wants to become impregnated, you know, with you. So you get to that. Maybe that's just that one time. But
so that brings us back to the second rug. So we have two Lebowskis, potentially two dudes. Let's say two dudes, and we have two rugs. We have two rugs. So as
the second rug, I'm not getting this.
So the first,
he took the rug from the Big Lebowski. Maud took the rug back from him.
Because that was it was Maud's rug.
Maud's mother,
Maud's mother, or something like that, right? Yeah. So it was not the Big Lebowski's rug to give.
Right.
We have the second rug moving the plot forward, and that introduces us to Maud Lebowski, who I would argue, along with the cowboy, is one of the most together characters in the entire movie. Here you got this woman living this astounding life. She is naked, swinging across the sky, painting, well naked in a harness. She comes down.
That's this painting. I don't know if you recognize that. Yeah, this is painted by our high priestess naked on a zip line last year for Dude Fest. Yeah.
It was so great. Yeah, I was there 2 years ago. I got up on the zip line. That between what you guys set up there was a beautiful, beautiful thing. It was such a good pre-COVID moment.
It was. Glad we had it for sure.
Exactly. So beautiful. And so here we have this. She's naked, zip lining in a harness. She can say vagina to any person she wants without shame. She can go after and get a child. And she is actually the one who is the money within the Big Lebowski family, but does not flaunt it. She is like the truly self-actualized person in this movie. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. Maybe a little intellectualized, but otherwise living a full life.
I mean, I think she runs into her own problems of vanity. You know, you can just you can tell that, and just in the way that I suppose educated people talk in a certain way, but it's also people who think they're very smart talk in a certain way too. She talks more like someone who thinks she's very smart than someone who's looking to have communication, I suppose. It's like people can use their language to set themselves up over people, or their connections, like she's talking about the Benali or whatever, right? But and she's talking in Japanese, and they all know in that scene that she's trying. Oh, this is, I guess, it's hard to keep them all the meetings. But the scene where they're all laughing and on the phone and holding,
Right.
The Lebowski out,
And
at
that's
that
really
point,
elevating themselves over Lebowski.
right.
And that's that over-intellectualization point. Like, she
Right.
seems content, but she is disconnected. Like, she
Right.
has another friend who is very kind of like separate and above things. And but so she's getting what she wants, but we don't know if she's like happy outside of those scenes.
Right.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, but she is fairly put together. I mean, you could also make the argument that Treehorn is probably like maybe the most put together.
Is that the known pornographer?
The known performer, yeah, Jackie Treehorn. I mean, he has plans
right.
to take sexuality digital and make virtual reality porn and everything like that. This is back in the 90s, so he's a forward-thinking individual.
Yeah,
who's hosting these giant I mean, but it depends on what you think is the life well lived. I think, right? Too, which character is the most admirable, perhaps.
I mean, we got a lot of that going on. What the hell is, and people telling each other that one extremity is the way to do it.
Right.
I hope that what we're trying to figure out, or what we do figure out, I hope what we figure out is a way to allow for a reality framework, society, if you will, that allows for even pathological megalomania to at least express itself in a way that doesn't get us all fucked or get all of the pie eaten. However, we're figuring out that it's not a pie, it's a waterfall. How do we set up a situation where, you need to get all the money, you need to like win, you want to like you want to win? Well,
here's some Monopoly dollars. They mean a lot. Here you go.
Here's a situation where you can have your experience of like, I arose, or I was totally nepotized and I remained, or I like I impressed my father, without us allowing for the opportunity for you to take that megalomania energy, or just call it aspiration, and lord over people, and or fuck the planet to death, So it's like I want people to be able to play their reindeer games. I want people like I'm sex positive as much as I am, success, validate my ego positive in a way of like, well, shaming people for doing that. They're gonna do it either way. They're gonna seek it in less healthy ways if you don't give them an avenue. So how do we set up a situation where you can try to be the Big Lebowski without hurting anybody? But also, how do us dudes? Because I'm a little aspirational, but for the most part, I'm a dude at heart. I am way more dudist than I am like. Yeah, I don't need to win. But the part of me that wants to win actually is the wellspring of suffering in my life actually. And anyway, how do we?
And this is also something, like, had the dude just released attachment to his rug, then he wouldn't have gone through all of that.
Didn't even mention it. What if he didn't even mention it to Walter? Didn't even.
Right.
I'll have to watch it again and think with that.
And so the idea is like, I mean, and this backs up kind of the Taoist, he became undude the moment that he decided to keep attachment to anything.
But he was also dude in the fact that he kept Walter in his life, which is the part that looks for conflict and looks for like holding on to these old wrongs. I mean, Walter.
Well, okay, so like I think the case with the dude is that not a whole lot would happen if he was on his own, right? Walter is probably generally the catalyst for anything wild happening in the world, and there's something that's great about that chaos, which is why I think that he holds on to Walter in his life.
I'm not understanding again. I don't know if I even said this earlier, but I don't understand how Donnie is the catalyst.
No,
not Donnie. Walter.
Walter is.
Okay, Walter. Okay, because Donnie seems to be like the innocent.
Yeah, he's the innocent for sure. He's just, there's. I was thinking about this one, that everybody in the character wants something of the dude. like every single character in the movie, almost minus just like a couple, wants something from the dude. Most of the time it's the money, right? All the Nihilists, Big Lebowski, Walter,
Maud, sperm.
Maud also wants the sperm, right? Her wants, she does want the money, but she also Donnie just wants to be heard.
And that's an important part to go into and I love this so much. This is one of those things, like, I watched it when I was a teenager for the first time, and then later I really got how special and important it is the moment where she's like, she's doing the yoga thing, and then it's like, what is that? It's like, is that yoga? It's like, it increases the chances of conception, and he's like increases. And it's like, but when she says that,
let me explain something about the dude.
Yeah. She says, it's like, exactly, like, I sought you out because I know you wouldn't care. Like, anybody else would want to know about their son or daughter, but you, right. I'm sure that you are not going to come asking me, where's our child?
So she wants the passive man. And there's this parable in Taoism about you wanting to be the twisted oak with all of the knots and all the branches, because nobody is going to cut you down in order to make a house. But here dude is this unattached, irresponsible man. And that's exactly what she, as a feminist who enjoys sex, wants, because she wants to procreate without attachments. And here is that unattached man. And it's that very unattachment, that lack of attachment, that is valuable to her, that causes her to attach to him to have his child.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, that's another thing, or at least something that I see in Maud is like a desire to control, or to keep things under control, or to have things under her control. Maybe even to control people, in her own ways, but that
she lies to him about, misleads him about the doctor, right? So she go to the doctor because she had her thugs punch him in the mouth.
Right.
That really is about checking out his health to provide a child to her.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, and the dude is just completely out of control from pretty much the get-go, of the movie, and stays out of that control, but he's just riding with it. Right. And I think there's a valuable lesson there as well.
So he's really impacted, influenced by Walter. He's really impacted, influenced by Maud. So he, in being passive, he's kind of ping-ponged, coming back to the sport that could be part of this religion. He's kind of ping-ponged back towards these characters who do care and are like fighting for these different things in the world.
Right. And, I think the lesson is, I mean, I personally, I don't believe that any of us have any kind of control over anything that happens to us. The only thing that we have control over is how we react or respond to the things that are around us. And that any amount of trying to hold on to control or take control is just going to lead to mental dissatisfaction.
Why is the main word that we say for being mature enough to do righteously in life responsibility? It's not like you do things good. It's your ability to respond. You have developed the ability to respond in a mature or effective or realistic way. Responsibility.
So you can throw flex comment on.
I like that.
So in fact, this is really ironic, because dude is this very chill, hippie-like guy. When he says this aggression will not stand, he's quoting George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Right?
All through the movie, he's quoting everybody else in the movie earlier on. He's either using words or he's doing full quotes, and he's taking it in this different context. I've heard it described as a form of stoner poetry where you reapply the things that you've heard to other situations in this loose kind of fashion. But
Or I think that's something that has dissipated as a stoner. There are stoners, like because you smoke weed all time every day from the moment you wake up to right before you go to sleep does not necessarily mean you're not a high strung person. In my observation,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Anymore, that used to be a thing, but like I think yeah. I mean, for me, it makes me give more fucks.
So one of the characters that we haven't talked about much yet is the Big Lebowski's loving wife, Bunny. And Bunny associated with known pornographers and nihilists. And so when she shows up, she is painting her toenails at the side of the beach, the side of the pool. And as dude is walking out of the house with the rug, Maud's rug, she asks him to blow. She asks him to blow on her toes. Right?
Blow on him.
So what do you see? Kind of like what's your take on Maud here, Wizard?
Or Bunny, yeah, Bunny. I think it's pretty obvious what's going on with Bunny. I mean, she's described as a trophy wife by Walter, which is probably exactly the case. Do you think that she fell in love with the Big Lebowski for his charming personality and sexual proficiency? Especially being a necrophiliac as Maud, or not nymphomaniac.
We don't know, but that's not.
Let's clarify that. You meant nymphomaniac.
Nymphomaniac is what I meant. Yeah,
there's a bit of a difference. That's what ducks do. Is the necro.
That might be revealed in the sequel, but we don't know that yet. So we shouldn't.
Yeah, we should not speculate. You're absolutely right. So, it's obvious that, what does she want? She also wants the money. She kidnapped herself to.
No. She
didn't. She just went away for a break to Palm Springs, and the Nihilist knew about it. But she probably had some kind of deal with the Nihilist as well, because they were porn stars together,
Right. Fixing the cable. He came by a cable repairman.
Yeah, and I love how non-attached the dude is to sex in that moment too. He's just not titillated, or like when Maud's trying to talk about sex, or when they're watching the porn that Bunny's in, and she's like, "You can imagine what happens next," and he says he fixes the cable. He's just totally unattached from. He didn't get titillated or anything like that. Even There is a moment though when he gets the tree horns. I guess he does have that beautiful shot of his face as they're doing the girls or doing the topless girl on the trampoline thing. Yeah, and his face is just wide open. So he's a man still, just like all of us as well. He's not completely immune from it, but it's not his driving motive.
That's kind of like some in the moment wonder for a beautiful dynamic thing.
I think so. Yeah.
In that moment of just like natural, like spectacle.
Yeah. But I think, it's obvious that Bunny is not there for love, married to the Big Lebowski, that she's also there for the money. Like all of the characters are very money driven, except for the dude and Donnie. Yeah.
Is it supposed to be
I actually have a theory. It's not the stranger, which is the cowboy's name in the credits. He's the stranger. But it's not the stranger that's the second dude. It's what's his name? The high school kid who sits there straight faced. As he's known that he's stolen this car, but Walter's yelling at him, and he just sits there straight face, unfazed, as Walter goes and destroys, another case of mistaken identity.
No, I think the kid's a nihilist. I think he's the second nihilist.
The kid's a nihilist. Okay. He just doesn't care. You're right. You're absolutely right.
But the kid is a true nihilist.
I've heard that analysis though. The kid's the dude, and he's out-duded the dude, and the dude just doesn't know what to say. But I think you're right. I think he is the second nihilist. Okay.
Maybe the ultimate dude is the dude in the iron lung. You just don't get to hear from him.
It's like father, like son, actually.
Larry.
Right. So
Larry. Yeah, that's it.
This is what happens. I found that my teenage self loved this is what happens, Larry. This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass. This is what happens, Larry. I love that so much. And I had a Walter in my life. I had a person who was more Walter than Walter was Walter, actually.
Wow.
I had
Walter.
this gentleman who has since joined the Choir Invisible. May he rest in peace. But he there was a moment where we were eating food at a restaurant and a car pulls up and he reaches into his bandolier, which he always had several guns.
Wait. He had a bandolier.
The bandolier specifically when there's a rack of.
Yeah, that's great.
He had
a holster. He had a bandolier.
Well, okay, not reaching into the bandolier. Okay, so he would always have a vest that had both ammunition. I thought bandolier was a vest of ammunition.
Great. That's beautiful. Like people have holsters, but he had a vest that
he had a vest containing enough ammunition to fire off hundreds of rounds.
That is a very poetic and dangerous way to live. I'm just very impressed by somebody who would walk.
He was an ex-Navy SEAL.
I mean,
he was more Walter than Walter was Walter. He really was.
Wow.
He and I learned a lot about bonding with the what seemed as the the contradictory other from this man. And there was a moment though that I remember the most Waltery moment, but once again he was more Walter than Walter was Walter. So when a car pulls up as me and my family are eating dinner and he reaches into his vest full of ammunition and guns and is about to pull out a firearm and would have had to shoot through glass, and so he goes like this and it's like, and he goes, I thought that was, I'm just going to use the word Bob Hoskins. That's an actual person, but he's like, I thought that was Bob Smith. I thought that was Bob Smith.
Yes.
I almost pulled my weapon and fired.
Bob Smith is lucky. Bob Smith is lucky he did not show up that day.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I remember. And it's and that taught me a lot because it's once back to the thing of can we let megalomania have a path to find out that that's not the way, because that's what you want to do with expression, as opposed allowing people to express themselves and find out that it's not doing the thing that is going to bring them peace. So that they eventually find out it's like, I've been running this program, or they don't, but they don't, take it so far. Like, we want to give people the opportunity to express safely, because if you repress, you explode, right? That seems pretty obvious at this point. So like with him too, it's like, yeah, I want people to be able to have a gun range and stuff, so they like, let it out just. But then again, also, I don't even know what I'm not cracking open that thread right now. But
with
this particular guy, it's like
it's a post-traumatic stress disorder.
I would prefer there be a driving range for people who are thinking about violence all day.
No. So there's like, again, the driving that shooting range, it is very calming for many people. So I think having that available is a good thing, because there's that moment, there is a true Zen that people find, like when I'm trying to teach people grounding or mindfulness who have a military background, that ability, that pause and that breath control that they use when firing a firearm, it's something they can relate to when they're working with grounding. And
oh my God, that's such a thing to think about, that maybe gun nuts who you don't see as meditative Zenful people do meditate when they're shooting a gun, because you have to for practical purposes.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. That's
a very interesting concept for sure.
So this brings us to the last group of individual, because there were no shots fired, right? Which is the nihilists. We haven't really talked about the nihilists yet. And these are the people who claim to believe in nothing, yet they clearly believe in porn and fake ransoms and they're willing to get serious. They're willing to get serious, and we believe in nothing. That is an oxymoron. Yeah. To have a serious tone as you go, we believe in nothing. Right. That is quite like thou dost protect too much. Right. Yeah. They're marmot owners. They have a pet. Would somebody believes in nothing have a marmot? I don't think ferrets are difficult to maintain. They are. They're hard.
Yeah.
They take a look.
I've lived with ferrets. I lived with 3 ferrets.
So Wizard, what is your take on the nihilists?
Well, I think the dude's first reaction when Bunny says that's Uli, he's a nihilist, right? And he says that must be exhausting, right? I think that, and this is kind of just, I mean, yeah, I guess the idea is like believing in things gives you energy, right? It gives you zest. If when you have passions and things that you're working towards that you believe in, that's when you find yourself in the most energetic state, right? To try to like, and then there's the added layer of convincing yourself that you believe in nothing because maybe it's a cool thing to do or any number of other reasons that have led you to this philosophy.
Well, it hurts to care.
Yeah.
Sometimes it hurts to care.
No, it does. I mean, that's kind of the nature of caring. So this is something I work a lot with people, is that the way out of a lot of things like depression and constant anger and anxiety is to reconnect to the things that you care about, because what happens is when people care, they hurt, and then they shut off the fact that they care, and that's where they shut down and come into conflict. And this is why I think that the kid,
it's just caring about the right things, right? Or learning to train yourself to find things that are worth caring about, right?
Or to make room for the strong emotions that come up when you care about things is really practice. Because mindfulness is not about clearing your mind or not having emotions. Mindfulness is not stoicism. Mindfulness is about making room for all of the experiences of life, positive and negative, and letting them kind of flow through you like a wave. And allowing yourself to do that gives you room to feel strongly on the good and the bad, making the room for that stuff that allows you to care, which is why I think that kid was the true nihilist, because he seemed cut off from all life. Right.
Well, he stole the car. He's
to
probably
maybe
the
feel
nihilist.
something, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But these so-called nihilists, they were pretty passionate, right? They were ready to fight over stuff. They're involved in pornography. They were ferret aficionados. Like, these are people who are motivated and engaged and had pep in their step.
Maybe the cop is the ultimate dudist, because he's living a career where he's supposed to at least operate as if, not necessarily as if he gives fucks as an individual, but he's supposed to give fucks effort-wise, energetically. And when he's presented with the thing of like of the finding the lost car, where he's like, yeah, we've got several detectives working on this. They got us working in shifts. Like, he gives zero fucks.
Whereas
I was thinking you're talking about the cop of Palm Beach.
That guy.
I was going to say that. He's a real reactionary. I don't know.
Get the fuck out of my beach community, Lebowski.
So that's another pair we've got there. We've got the two cops. We've got the one cop that doesn't care, who's just going with the flow, who is the dude of cops, right?
Right.
And then we have the other cop that is about the status and protecting his community. He wants to live in a certain thing, and he's willing to throw a coffee cup at dude's head and then kick his chair over and then kick him in the ribs and say, get out. Like, not in my beach community.
Yeah.
Very the guy, the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket.
Very much. Yes. There's
a similar face too.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of pairs. There's a lot of duality in this movie here. So we've got the two Lebowskis, the two dudes, the two such a nihilists, the two cops, the two rugs. Are we missing? And then the two female characters, right? So we've got Bunny on one hand, who is too much into her sexuality, too much into her body and not enjoying it, according to Maud. And then Maud, who is maybe kind of, according to you, is there too much in her mind?
Her mind, the other side.
As I said, intellectualized, right? So we've got those pairs. Are we missing other kind of like dualities here? So how about Donnie? So Donnie has been slightly overlooked. So Donnie, he wants to be heard, and Donnie wants to be liked.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
He's kind of going along with
those are his motivations.
So dude goes along with people because he doesn't care, but Donnie goes along with people because he does care, right? As I am the walrus. he wants to be the walrus.
V.I. Lenin. Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov.
And as Flex said earlier, Donnie is the tragic character. He is the truly, because in this conflict with the Nihilist, who we've now kind of brought into the story, Donnie becomes overwhelmed and has a heart attack. And here he was kind of going through this flow of life, much in the way that Dude was, but he doesn't really seem satisfied. He was just trying to be there in a way. And here's what's amazing. Aside, I just recently went back and watched Trees Lounge, which is what I see is one of the quintessential like 90s art films about bar life, about this this character who he ice cream truck, things that you could not represent in today's modern era without it being harshly judged, underage girl, all of these things. Turns out it was written and directed by Steve Buscemi. I didn't realize this previously. And he kind of really embodied this 90s character. And Steve Buscemi typically plays characters that are like full of life and full of will and just very deep and interesting. And here he was,
except for in Adam Sandler movies, and he's just kind of a side joke for his face. But
got it. So I don't watch many others.
You shouldn't.
Thing. So he was kind of like the kind of quiet, humble side character here as well.
Yeah, and he's absolutely the tragic character, right? Because he had nothing to do with any of the plans, and he's the one that ends up dying for it, right? In the
right.
End. We're jumping ahead, but and he didn't have to die too. That's the most tragic thing, right? If Walter had just finally been like, okay, fine, let's just fucking put this behind us. Here's my $17 that I've got in my pocket, right? It's still have
that money to the Nihilist after the car was burning, right? Setting that scene.
Yeah.
So
the car finally dies. It's been brutalized all through the entire movie over and over again. Yeah.
Crashed twice, right? Urinate used in as a urinary receptacle by.
Well, there's another urinary receptacle that belonged to Dude as well.
We got the two again, right?
Yeah.
We get the rug and the car. Yeah.
And
how much do you think this like? How much do you think this was planned out? Do you think that
this is the Coen brothers, man? They say that they're existentialists. They say they believe in nothing, yet they spend a lot of time, quite like the Nihilists, putting a great deal of effort into their movies. And they almost always have big song and dance numbers.
Yeah.
Like when the dude got passed out, and then he passed between the legs, and there was the staircase, and there's this big song and dance number. The Coen brothers say they're existentialists, but there's a lot of passion and a lot of meaning put into their movies.
I don't follow celebrity things much, but it's Coen's sisters now. But when this
Wachowski,
Jesus,
the sibling.
This is how. Okay, I have a very switcheroozy brain. Sorry. Okay, I was thinking that it's like, wait, is it? Am I going to be the one who's saying that we should say something properly, or is it the proper way to refer to the past because they were when? Okay, not completely disengaged.
The Coen siblings are brothers.
I don't know.
The Wachowski siblings used to be brothers and now are siblings.
Okay. I make a real effort not to know about people and know about art. Forgive me for that. Carrying on.
And I've got to say that foreshadowing the brothers becoming siblings / sisters, Bound is probably the best lesbian film noir ever made. It's an incredible movie.
What's it called?
Bound. So it has Meg Tilly and Tina Gershon. And they had the cinematographer. It was the $9 million movie that convinced the studio system to give the Wachowski siblings like tens and hundreds of millions of dollars to make The Matrix, because they got Bill Pope, who is the cinematographer for Army of Darkness, to film the scenes in Bound. An incredible movie. If you haven't seen it, it's stunning. And I love film noirs. It's worth checking out. But that brings us back to the fact that we're talking about, there's so many threads here. I got lost. Wizard, where are we?
Yeah, well, we're talking about the Coen brothers, whether this was their plan or not, or whether a lot of things just kind of like popped in there by universal synchronicity, which is kind of
and that, but it doesn't.
You know,
is like I think that you paint with the brush of reality, and Bible code appears everywhere where humans express from a place other than individual ego.
I don't know if you look at other Coen brother films,
but I think there's something to this too.
What are the other ones? What are the other ones? What are the other
like There Will Be Blood, Oh Brother We're Out There, Art Thou? Art Thou? Thank you.
Fargo.
Fargo's brilliant.
Fargo's pretty intense,
right? So they do a.
It's got the guy in it too. It's got the Nihilist.
It's got
several. Does it have several people from Lebowski in it?
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to have an original tie-in to Fargo when the private detective finally shows up, right? And he's like, I got sent by the Knutsons, and
oh my god,
dude is like, who the fuck are the Knutsons? That's like his last strand. He can't hold anymore. Like just random things, but it was originally supposed to be a reference to Fargo, and they were going to use, I can't remember what the last name was, but they're going to use one of the last names from Fargo, and that's how it was in the original script.
See, I think what you
There
just
Will Be
described
Blood
here,
is Coen Brothers.
Yeah. So
That's
I think
so different.
I think what you're describing here is exactly the point that we're making, which is that the Coen brothers put a considerable amount of thought into all of the layers and all of the symbolism in their movies.
If I had to, well, I don't know. I was gonna say Smokey may be a good candidate for the second Donnie.
Yeah.
Remind me who Smokey.
We don't. Smokey is the guy who gets the gun drawn on him by Walter for stepping over the line.
Yeah.
And he's just like I don't know. He maybe strikes me maybe as the same kind of character as Donnie, even though you don't see him very much. And
he took action though. He called the league. He called the league and filed a complaint. And I don't think Donnie would do that.
Yeah. And my thought was just symbolically that Walter drew the gun on him and threatened death, and then eventually was the cause of Donnie's death later on.
Okay, I don't know how to bring the sayings up, but Emily just let us know that There Will Be Blood was not directed by the Coen brothers.
They're A Country for Old Men, No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men. That's the one.
Yeah, they kind of came out at the same time.
Got it. I got my wires crossed there.
Yeah.
So what would you say, like, out of everything in The Dude, out of everything in The Big Lebowski, what are the kind of themes or the points that kind of resonate most with you?
Well, I guess maybe, I see what I see in The Big Lebowski, but I do feel like an incarnated dude, that we go about life very similarly, and that synchronistically my life is lined up with this movie incredibly. Like, so I have my own Walter. He's the best Walter in the entire world. His name's Dave Messi. We talked about that, but he's the catalyst for us doing anything that we do. If it was just up to the dudes here, me and Joe, probably not a whole lot would get done.
Joe is also very dude-like.
Yeah.
Like you guys are very both dude-like
in
your embodiments.
I thought that you were wrong about There Will Be Blood.
It's No Country for Old Men.
Which just has a kind of similarities.
A lot of similarities. Came out at the same time.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal.
It's very like a lot of different connections.
I think those two movies kind of blurred together in my mind, actually. So we're going to say David Messi is kind of like your Walter, and and I guess that says something for the people who are like caught up in the world, in the drama of the past. I don't know.
But it's the best Walter a dude could ask for, because he's the most jolly,
nice. I don't know him that well.
Easy going, but he can get worked up and defend justice. But he's a beautiful character. Yeah, I love Dave Messi. He's the best Walter a dude could ask for, and I only call him Walter because he's our catalyst, And so I think that's an important character in a dude's life, is the catalyst. You need a catalyst, or else you're just going to sit and do nothing. This
is Emily again saying that they both No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, or as I like to say, There Will Be No Country for Old Men Blood.
There will be no blood for old.
Both great movies for sure. But
starving vampires, starving old.
There Will Be Blood is a movie that I like.
It's a brutal movie, man.
I haven't rewatched because I haven't been ready yet. Yeah,
it's brutal. It's like Saving Private Ryan.
Milkshake.
I thought. Our pair with like our pairs. Let's go to Tom Hanks. I thought that No Country for No Country for I saw Saving Private Ryan speaking before of Forrest Gump. I thought it was gonna be another Tom Hanks movie. So I came to this movie like expecting like splash, Forrest Gump, and here I am. And within the first like 30 seconds, someone's head is caved in from an unexploded mortar round. I'm like, what the fuck?
That guy was pretty dudely chill about finding his own limbs.
And that is true.
That is what shock does to you. Yeah.
I was not duly chill watching Saving Private Ryan for the first time, and it took me a while to watch it again.
I don't think I've ever watched that one, actually. I'm not a huge fan of the military movies just in general. But.
Yeah, this one in particular, this is before anybody like made, this is probably the most like violently realistic war movie made. Yeah. Because even like Armageddon Now, like that was violent, but not in the way Saving Private Ryan was.
Apocalypse Now.
What did I say?
You said Armageddon Now. Armageddon is a movie where Ben Affleck tries to blow up a meteor.
See, this is what I get. I have a couple beers in me, so the words are getting switched. But yes, No Country for Old Blood, Armageddon later. Yes, all of those things. But Saving Private Ryan was a complete shock, and I wish I'd known what I was getting into because I would appreciate it much more.
I remember when that was the whole thing, and they would be like, people are leaving, World War II vets are leaving the theater because it's too much. My grandfather had his legs blown up in the World War II by them Nazis, and I remember that's been a big part of my and I remember that movie was very was intense for me for that because it was always this abstract thing of like he was only alive till I was 5 years old, but like it was just a part. It was an interesting thing about reality to me to experience. Oh, your grandpas don't have legs. Like I thought that when you have a grandfather, that's the one that doesn't have legs. But then I later found out that there was a rogue nation try to take over the world.
So you had a grandfather. Your grandfather was the Big Lebowski.
Yeah, well, and he was pretty chill. He was pretty chill about a bunch of things, but also. And I'm not going to give the specific family situation where he wasn't chill about, but like, you can catch somebody on a bad week, catch somebody in a real intense week. Am I going to be chill when I have a really intense week like that?
No,
I've been unchill before for sure, but generally I tend to be fairly lax.
And that kind of brings me back to the point is that dude actually was not chill for most of the movie.
But here's why he was unchill, right?
Frustrated most of the movie.
I don't know. Like
I would go back and watch.
He goes slingshotting, right? Because like
he's upset through much of the movie.
I could throw a hissy fit right now about that. I probably can't go bowling after this, right? Because is that true?
I don't know.
I think bowling is possible now. I think
bowling. No, I can go bowling, but it's probably gonna be 11. I can throw a hissy fit about adults having a curfew.
But here's the thing. I think it's okay that he gets upset because, again, if we talk about mindfulness, I think that there is a false narrative of mindfulness being stoicism. And mindfulness
I think that, like
emotions that you're feeling, right?
Right. And this is the thing is most of the time that he's unchill, it's because he's caring about something.
Yes.
Like the first time he really loses his cool is when they get the toe, right? Or after they've made the handoff. I mean, for everything that's happened, he's still running through things pretty chill, but he's caring about this woman. He doesn't want this woman to get hurt, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what, if he didn't care, if it wasn't his like humaneness, then he could have just like shrugged it off like Walter or whatever.
He's upset about the rug. He's upset about Walter constantly mentioning Vietnam. He's upset about his car. He's upset again and again, but here's the thing. He lets it go. And this is what I'm talking about. Like
really quickly, like, he goes from being like in a real bad situation to going and like laying in his bathtub and smoking a joint to the sound of whale songs, like he has his ways of chilling down, right? He doesn't stay in that state for too long. Anytime that like things are getting like too much, like right before he gets punched and the rug gets pulled out of him, literally this time instead of figuratively. he was like laying on the carpet, smoking a joint, listening to bowling pins from a tournament from like 5 years ago.
Right.
So he has these meditative things. Oh, go ahead.
But there's a difference between like making room for an avoidance, right? So if we're distracting from things, if we're trying to pretend problems don't exist, that's not equanimity. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Equanimity. That's not equanimity. That's distraction. That's
you were looking for an adjective to put on a person, so equanimous was what you were.
Yes, that. Equilibrium, by the way, a fucking great movie with Christian Bale. Definitely worth watching. Art film. But equanimity was the word. Equanimous. Equanimous? I think it's equanimous.
Equanimous? No, I don't know.
Equanimous.
Equitable, as if you're an equitable person.
Someone in the comments.
Aquaticabidis. Okay. So anyway.
Go Google that shit.
But anyway, the idea here is there's like one thing I've always asked is how much of Buddhism is cultural from a culture that's collectivist and hyper aware of the distress of others, and how much of it is the principles of Buddhism. And so to me, like, dude is very much how
much do the principles of Buddhism infect that culture, you know, and like they've grown together over time.
Did you say affect or infect?
Affect,
like emotion.
Good. So I was gonna shout at you.
So when it comes to like the Eastern cultures, there's this very high consciousness of whether or not you're disturbing other people, and so stoicism and equanimity go hand in hand. But
I feel like Stoicism shares a lot with Buddhism. It was just the Western development of that kind of.
But I guess my point here is like the dude. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, Marcus Aurelius, the fifth emperor, right? He went through 15-year plague, pandemic, as well as some brutal wars and like a lot of bad things. But, you know, in his writings, he's talking about just taking things smooth and how to like live the best life no matter what happens to you, you know? And it's like, he doesn't write at all about the plague or these wars that are going on. He's just writing his ways of being able to like move with whatever's happening in front of him, you know? And I think that's, I mean, I do kind of see the dude as a stoic who's kind of losing his cool. That generally he's like the stoic character because Walter's like, you're being very undude, like, you know, like at a certain point, you know, like it's just.
But my argument, so I'm going to jump in here. My argument is that he is the ultimate Western Buddha in the sense that he is allowing himself to express what he feels, but he's not holding on to what he feels. Whereas the Eastern Buddhist would not share what he's feeling. He would appear stoic, but would be feeling internally, but does not want to interfere with the feelings of others around them. Where the dude is just going to express what he's feeling at that moment, where he's not attached to sex, but when he's really engaged in it, he has it with Maud, and he enjoys it with the woman on the trampoline, that sexual experience, but he doesn't hold on to it. And when he's upset, he feels it and he expresses it, but he doesn't hold on to it. So in that sense, to me, he is an embodiment of a Western Buddha, because he's not concerned that other people are going to judge him for being Buddhist or not, or being equanimous or not. He's going to express what he feels when he feels it. He just doesn't hold on to it.
Oh, and
I think that he's just authentic, you know, that he's not trying to be anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people in the movie are trying to be something, right?
Yeah.
Walter,
like the nihilists are trying to be nihilist unsuccessfully. Walter's trying to be a war hero unsuccessfully.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Lebowski is trying to be a rich man unsuccessfully.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Maud's trying to be an artist and maybe successfully, but you don't actually know how much of what she's saying is bullshit. You know, how much she's saying is a front, right?
But that over-intellectualization is a disconnect from the real world in the present moment, which is very undude-like in that sense. So when Walter was judging the dude for being undude-like, he actually was being very dude-like. He was expressing what he was feeling in the moment, but not being attached to it. Right?
Calmer than you, dude. Calmer than you.
Walter
Which was pure ego,
with
right?
the what's the line about, like, it's like when you get divorced, you something, you stop being Jewish.
5,000 years of beautiful history.
And that's Walter, man. He embodies holding on to the past. Vietnam, his past marriage, all of these
ancient religion. Pain. Yes.
I don't fucking roll on Shabbos.
These rules and this outrage, like every reason to be outraged, which is both the current right and left, as we're often talking about. And maybe are a little overly attached to ourselves.
I'm not attached to that framework anymore. I could not talk about that a single more time in my life. I think we.
So what? Don't you want to talk about?
You'll learn.
You just
you'll
did.
Learn how to do it. You'll learn how to do it.
I don't know.
When you're a decade down the road, bud, you'll learn how to do it in a peaceful kind of way. Talk these things without getting riled. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting riled up. Getting all riled up.
So I mean, I really do think that there's something to this, right? Because he's not like a stoic, because he does get it. But he's just authentic, and he doesn't care what anybody else thinks, right? That's why he goes out in a bathrobe and clothes that, like, you don't dress like that on a weekday. He's like, it's a weekday. We go and look for a job, because obviously you got to get a job if you're unemployed, And
doesn't Big Lebowski is an example of like if somebody is overtly and like really obsessively homophobic, I always assume. Like, I don't even have to say it. What's going on with that?
Right. Again, now does protest too much.
Yeah.
So I think this is the kind of like a hardy point here, which is an Eastern Buddha would appear to be unfazed by the events in life, where a Western Buddha is going to they're going to feel what they feel, and this is exactly what the dude does. If he's agitated, he's agitated. If he's excited, he's excited. If he wants something, he wants something. And sometimes he'll be kind of swayed by the people around him, but he doesn't hold on to these things past a certain time. And he finds that balance again eventually. And that's kind of like the ultimate nature of the dude, is coming back to that homeostasis, that the equanimity. That's a new version of it. I'm going to come up with at least 24 ways to say.
I keep thinking St. Thomas Aquinas, so you can't have the Aquine. You can't have Aquine.
I'm so bad with this sort of thing. But yeah, so that balance, that kind of flow, that Tao, he comes back to it again and again, regardless of what he's authentically feeling in the moment.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of course correction is something that we can learn. And I think, a lot of it has to do with he's in the present moment a lot, like if he's, and maybe that's just me projecting it on him, but to me, it seems like in whatever he's doing, he's just like focused in that moment, and he doesn't hold on to the past all that much, because it's past, it's not right here, and he's in the right here a lot. At least that's what it seems like to me.
Right.
Or maybe, just a little bit vacant, he's on a pretty strict drug and White Russian regiment to keep his mind limber.
Keep his mind flexible. Yeah.
Keep his mind limber. I love that line. But also another interesting thing, he used to be a revolutionary. It's a very, the Seattle Seven. Yeah. And so he tried to go and change the world that way. And I think there's at least something in the subtext that says that he was disillusioned by that, right? That going and trying to like fight for your cause and like do this thing that you think is right and fight for justice and ends up backfiring in the end, and that the way that he can affect the world is by being genuine, like when his landlord shows, landlord's the Donnie.
Oh, there you go, you got it.
Landlord's the Donnie.
You found the second Donnie. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So the landlord comes up and he's asking dude if he can come see his dance recital of some sort. I can't remember.
Well, he's asking for the rent because he's
but he starts
as the 15th.
You don't know that yet because he introduced
yeah.
himself
Oh,
because,
yeah. That's the last thing he says.
yeah. He's like, he really wants dude to come and see his
Yeah.
dance. Like, what kind of dance was it? I can't remember.
It was a dance quintet or quartet.
Yeah.
Is it like an interpretive dance? Do you remember the dance, or you don't remember it? They're like it because it's like short. It's kind of like in the back of the scene because the scene is focusing around Walter finding or out where the kid
Larry.
lives.
Yeah.
Larry lives. Yeah. But he's dressed in leaves and he's dancing behind a projection screen, and then he comes out and he's like, yeah.
And he
There's
wants
probably
to be
some
seen.
subtext in there. Yeah, he wants to be seen, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he wants to be liked, and then the rent is like pushed aside as like he's gonna let that go because he wants that attention.
There was the second Donnie. You're right, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll have to. I think there's something to this. It makes total sense too because of just like the idea of the mistaken identities and the two different sides of the Lebowski. Right, the whole movie's titled after it, so. There's probably two of everything. You're totally right. Good catch on that one. I haven't heard that interpretation.
Yeah. It was really nice to like watch that again in order to kind of like prepare for this because I watched it in this entirely different way, and I asked myself because the first several times I watched it, I accepted the strangers, the narrator, the cowboys interpretation of the dude, and so when I was watching it for this podcast, I was like. I was watching it through different eyes, and then I saw all of these different things, which is one of the beautiful things about this movie.
Yeah. And I do think that you're right about the stranger being the dude, and that would totally make sense. You know, he's unnamed just like the dude until he got a name because of the mistaken identity. He's like, I'm not Lebowski, I'm the dude, right? It's kind of like me.
Cowboys are called dudes, right? That's where that terminology comes from. Initially.
Was it elephant thing? Was it elephant hair?
It's a very apt observation. I like this idea a lot.
What's the other dude definition? You know this, right? Dude
like
is
an elephant's butt hair or something.
Like
is that
I was just thinking like Dude Ranch, right? That's a cow.
That's a cowboy reference. There's an insult of dude, which has to do something with an elephant or another.
Oh, I see. No, I wasn't aware of that. I should be aware of the insults that will be leveled at me for proclaiming my incarnated dudism.
Exactly. So Zach, what do you kind of like take as the heart of this movie? Like, what do you see as like the value, the message, the meaning in this movie?
I mean, it's about that a ton of stuff is going on around you no matter what, and you get to observe this is how it pans out for people, or what the experience is like when you cling on to various content. You know, when you do the opposite of what meditation is supposed to be, of like, you know, treat the thoughts like passing clouds, and you get to see what it is to get all riled up, and also what it is to be so detached that you don't get involved. And also what it is to be dishonest with yourself about your level of caring. I mean, it's a really great cinematic meditation about what it is to give a fuck or not give a fuck, or be so identified with not giving a fuck or giving a fuck that you're not even making an honest choice about where your care resides.
So that's a really good point too, because here we got another one of those pairs where the nihilists say they don't give a fuck, but they really give a lot of fuck.
Yeah.
But the dude doesn't.
They're really trying to get that money enough that one of them cuts off their toe. He gives a part of their body for it.
Right. Where the dude like kind of doesn't give a fuck, but he gets caught up in other people's fucks.
He gets
caught up in
really caught up. Right.
And he gets caught up in the Maud's fucks, literally. Right.
Yeah. There's that. Yeah. And the money too. The money becomes one of his cares, and he's riding the high of monies as well. Yeah. Like he always comes back feeling good at the promise of money. Like when he first gets the job to deliver the money, he thinks he's getting like $20,000 or something like that. And then Maud turns it to 5 times that, $100,000, you know, if he gets the money back. So, but he's obviously not someone that cares about that all that much. You know, he writes a check for 69 cents, a post-dated check. On 9/11, it was 9/11 is when the check is dated.
I didn't notice that.
1998. Yeah,
Wow.
As Bush is talking about, and this is
wow, that's crazy. That is
or
prophetic.
1992. Yeah. Very interesting, right? How much of this was put in by the Coen brothers, and how much is just there, because it's a movie for our times and a movie that could teach us a lot still today. It's like.
So something I've said a lot, because I've done a lot of like thinking and put like interest into mindfulness and presence, and the difference between like Buddhism in the East and Buddhism in the West, is I've always said that hedonism isn't Buddhism. And like Lebowski strikes me as a hedonist. Like, and one of the things I've always said is the more that we seek something, the more that we move away from it.
But there's like an enlightened hedonism as well. A hedonism that recognize, so what hedonism is about is seeking pleasure.
Yep. And
recognizing some of those pleasures bring pain.
Yes.
And so with an evolved sense of hedonism, you recognize that, you're taking withdrawals from a bank that you're going to have to pay back. And and so to seek pleasure means to make right decisions as well in some of your hedonistic choices. And to not follow pure pleasure for just the sake of it, but to follow a pleasure of life, right?
And I think that maybe this is maybe a little of the challenge, the currents that catch up the dude, is that he is seeking pleasure. Like, he gets caught up in like Walter's excitement about money, and then he gets caught up in that, and he gets caught up in Maud's excitement about sex, and then he's kind of manipulated through that. And he gets caught up in each of these things again and again. And it's the hedonism that kind of leads him astray a bit. He's avoidant, in avoidance different than being present with the distractions and the difficulties of life. Right?
Yeah. I mean, and I guess, it's a lesson that, I wonder if he ever examined it, and really considered, does the dude self-examine, or does he just keep on rolling on?
And I think he just kind of keeps on rolling on. Right? And then maybe that's kind of the beauty of it, is that there is that lack of self-consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So
and that's part of it too, is I guess like the Buddha is not like divided from his background. He is the background. He is just the one moving through with no division between, I don't know.
So with your experience of the movie Wizard, what for you, like what is it that you take? What is the kind of heart of this movie for you? What do you enjoy about that?
Oh, I think there's some really like beautiful things in the movie,
Zero mention of the Jesus this entire time.
Oh, it's right.
It's okay.
We missed the Jesus.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We missed the Jesus. Wait, no. Let's do this. Let's pause for a moment. Like, and aren't they making a sequel, or weren't they considering a sequel?
No, they made a spin-off where, John Turturro was very upset about the way that he was spun. He didn't realize that was the character that he was going to be when everything was edited together.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow, that's harsh, because that's a tough character to be.
Yeah, it's a rough.
What was that character at the? What do you mean?
The pederast.
Yeah.
Oh, I've forgotten. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. They didn't film anything that like gave him the inclination that he was going to be framed as a pedophile.
Oof.
I mean,
like
grow
that.
up if you don't want to act. Yeah. You don't want to be a character actor as.
So I think he with that dissatisfaction, they finally let him do like a redemption movie spin-off, but he's like a gangster. I didn't really pay attention. That's not canon.
Did it come out?
That's apocryphal. I'm not accepting the Jesus.
It's like the opposite of Better Call Saul, because some people actually say Better Call Saul.
I can't say because I didn't give it the attention.
It actually came out, because I thought it was yet to come out, and I hadn't heard any fanfare about it. So
it came out to little fanfare. Apocryphal, I say.
Okay, so again,
let's talk about the Jesus and what does he represent, right? He's obviously like, for whatever like sense of style, he like grooms himself and wants to put forward this like view of like sexiness and like confidence and just like, I'm the Jesus, I'll fuck you in the ass. You pull that shit on me, I'll take that pistol and shove it up your ass and pull the trigger till it goes click. You know, he's like trying to be the badass, but then like they like flash to, I think it's the most instantaneous character that like is flipped from being like inauthentic to authentic, right? Walter's probably the last. But like his flip happens really quickly because the Jesus is introduced, and then the converse where John Goodman, Walter, is telling the story about him having to go around and tell everybody in his neighborhood that he's on the sex offender registry, and him being very meek and mild, and a strong guy like scaring the shit out of him and about beating him up, right? So like it's that instantaneous flip, right? Or you have an inauthentic character that's turned authentic. And like I said, Walter is like the last because he starts inauthentic and he finally gets it when Donnie dies. And he's done the last fucking like terrible thing and spread the ashes of the wind, and the dude's just covered with Donnie.
And Donnie's ashes.
He's like, what the fuck does anything have to do with Vietnam, Walter? And it's a question that somebody needs to ask him like at some point. And this is the final, like, it's just like, and he's just like, he finally like lets down that like front that he's trying to be the strong hero and realizes that he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, just like any of us.
Travesty with you, Walter.
It's always a travesty with you, you know.
So Wizard, what do you take as kind of
and Maud is her inauthentic and her true intentions are flipped, you know, like yeah, the tree horn is introduced before as just like a mythos, and dude arrives at Treehorn's mansion and finds someone meeting that like sense of mythos with a very expansive like scenes as well, and seems to be everything that he purports to be, or his mythos has told him to be, right? And then you have a great moment where he like takes a call and writes something on the pad. And the dude is like,
yes,
detective work.
Yes.
Runs up to the pad.
He is in the entire movie.
This is the most active that he gets. Grabs the pad and scratches it, and just sees the little chicken scratch drawing of a guy with a giant boner. Like,
so what do you take as being like the big stories of this movie? Like, what is your takeaway? What draws you to dudism?
So I think this is the point: is that the dude is never made inauthentic. I think the dude is authentic all the way through. You know, like he's authentically concerned for Bunny, whose toes he blew on, he thought, you know, and now it's presented in front of him, right? And in that moment, you know, he's authentically concerned and authentically like losing his cool, but he's never inauthentic, and he's never not what he like makes himself out to be. Like, and that's shown in his dress, that's shown in, you know, the fact that, you know, and when he doesn't want to deal with bullshit, he puts down his sunglasses and is just like, fuck you, like, I'm gonna smoke a joint. Like, he just doesn't care, you know, about what society desires him to be, and he's content with that, right? Society has, and there's all sorts of presentations of society's expectations of him, and he just is just like whatever, like he is phased for sure, and like I think that's authentic as well, like he doesn't have to be continuously unfazed. It's just like
He expresses himself as he
because
is.
because to do that would probably is inauthentic, right?
Right, to pretend to be stoic all the time.
Right, because there's an expectation of him to be dude-like all the time, right?
So when Walter accuses him of being undude-like, which is like the ultimate insult, to say this, you're not being
yourself,
right. And he's just like, he just doesn't slow him down. He continues to be who he is,
right,
even in the face of that insult.
Right. I think he's able to find a lot of comedy in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
amusement
for his own sake, whether or not people like get it.
Right.
And as an outside observer, we get it because we're seeing the whole picture, but none of the other characters get exactly why the things he says are funny. And he just says them for his own amusement and enjoyment. I think that's a lot of how he operates. If you look at it that way, you can see that character trait, and I think that's an inspiring one, that you're not funny because you're trying to you find funny ways to live because that just lets you live in a way that you enjoy,
just amusing yourself, creating that, finding that joy, that pleasure in the moment. And
right.
Again,
it allows you to take care of, like, because he's like getting his head dunked in the toilet and he's like, where's the buddy Lebowski? And he's like, I don't know, I think down there, let me go check again. And he's, it's like he's not in those moments where people would like fight back and like, and that's his kind of his character. But we get to breaking points, and life pushes you and tests you. I also think that there's like this, he paid for engaging with his friend's life. And that's what I meant about like, would he ever be self-reflective on that? Like, would he ever consider that if he had just, cleaned the pee off his rug and let that one pass by and not hold on to that past, that he'd still have his friend with him?
So there's a Buddha and there's a Bodhisattva, right? So the Buddha kind of like progresses past this life, it progresses past karma, where the Bodhisattva remains engaged with other mortals who have not yet achieved enlightenment in order to help them achieve enlightenment.
Right. So the story is that two different kinds of Buddha exist, where they all start with the same path. The man goes off into the forest, and the one that never returns is the Buddha. And the one that reaches enlightenment just as he reaches back into the city gates becomes the Bodhisattva.
So you have the dude remaining engaged with all of these people who are attached, and he kind of momentarily gets caught up in what they're caught up with, attached to what they're attached with, but he always comes back to that equanimity, and he remains kind of an example for us all.
Right.
And this is kind of a good place to kind of wrap today up. So
yeah, also it's 9:25 and the current curfew for adults to be not in public places at this current time is 11 o'clock, and Astro Lanes is 11 minutes away.
Oh, so he's gonna be doing a little bowling tonight yet.
Go on a bowling adventure.
The goddamn try.
Nice. Excellent. So you can carry our dudeness into the world.
I prefer to embody my truths. I'm getting far less interested in saying what I believe. If I believe what I believe, watch or don't. Actually, don't watch. I'll just
and I think that's like what the dude did, and that's the way that he's changed the world, because everybody that he meets, he touches in a certain way, and he tried to be the like forceful mode of change as the Seattle 7, but like I think that he just dudes his way through and recognizes that he changes the world just by doing that.
And I think that this is something that's kind of mirrored something in my own life, where it used to be very important to me to be able to be a difference in people's lives and make a difference in the world. And as I go on more and more, I find that kind of like the dude, that the more I try to affect or stand up for a certain thing, the more that backfires, and the more that I just try to have fun and enjoy myself and kind of be who I am, and enjoy the things I enjoy, the better things turn out. And to not get so caught up in other people's drama, but to just kind of like have that good time, like that, I think is a lesson. The other thing about this movie for me is that I originally, when I saw it, I didn't get what people liked in it, but people who I loved and cared about and admired in different ways, I saw them really enjoy this movie. And so it kept bringing me back to it again and again. And every time I watched it, it's because I saw that somebody else was enjoying it in a different way than I did. And so every time I see how people enjoy it, I come back to the movie and I find something new in it. And that's kind of a very cool thing.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you on, Wizard. Cheers.
I hope you enjoy your bowling adventure.
I really hope I get to. This has just been like our opinions, dude.
Yeah, so guys, thank you for joining us for Paradialectic, and we'll be back again with something new in 2 weeks. Cheers, guys.
Bye,
Thanks,
dude.
Wizard.